Okay, so let's examine this whole thing about behavioral finance. There are two principal terms that are used to describe some of these fallacies, which academics want you to believe is why markets aren't efficient, because of course people don't make the rational investment decisions that they would like them to make. The first is called heuristics. Heuristics is another way of saying a shortcut. Heuristics is a trial and error kind of way of coming to a decision that leads you to make quicker decisions than you would otherwise make. And one of the academics gave a wonderful example in terms of how does he get dressed in the morning. He has 5 jackets and 10 pairs of pants and 15 shirts and 20 ties, and if in fact he had to figure out all of the different permutations, there'd be 2 million possible combinations of clothes that he could wear to get dressed. And if he explored every single one of them, it would take him 23.4 hours to decide how he's going to dress. So obviously he doesn't. And the reason that he doesn't is because he knows, oh, that check doesn't go with that stripe, and you don't put a gray slacks with a brown coat, and those kinds of things. Those are examples of heuristics. So the human mind otherwise would be cluttered with an impossible task were it not for our tendency to use otherwise known as rules of thumb. So when you're looking at your behavior when it comes to making investment decisions, you may hear voices in the back of your head which are rules of thumb that you don't necessarily know that you're making, but it is a perfectly normal human thing to do to follow these shortcuts to get to a decision. So that's one type of these biases or issues that are behind behavioral finance. The second type of bias or fallacy is called cognitive bias or cognitive fallacies. This basically, they would, of course academics don't like to be direct. So when you call it a cognitive bias or a fallacy, what they're really saying is these are mistakes that people make that they shouldn't make because rational people wouldn't make these mistakes. And there are countless examples of that, lots of different research that have highlighted some of these things. And basically, we're going to spend a session on each one over the next few, so you have a sense of some of the things that you might look out for in your own behavior and some of your own thinking that may get in the way of making the best possible investment decision to help you and your family achieve your goals. Before I highlight this, however, I just want to say this. Our philosophy is very simple. People aren't rational, they're not all emotional. It's perfectly normal that people make decisions the way they make them, that they take shortcuts or they fall prey to certain kinds of fallacies in their thinking. Rather than have a value judgment about it, we just like to identify it so that you can do a better job potentially of navigating this difficult world of making investment decisions. So the remaining videos are designed to highlight these cognitive biases so you might recognize them in yourself and hopefully not fall prey to them in the future. Before I move on with this, however, I want to talk about something that's been fascinating for me, and that is in this course that I've been taking, how the brain works. So there are roughly 3 parts of the brain. There is the brain stem, otherwise known as the reptilian brain. This is what regulates things like breathing, heartbeat, blood flow, urination, excretion, body temperature, things that basically you don't have any cognitive control over, but is obviously a very important thing of staying alive. The third level is the neocortex, which is otherwise known as gray matter, and this is of course where economists would hope that you live, where people make rational investment decisions based on available facts at the time and nothing else, no emotion, etc. The midbrain, otherwise known as the mammalian brain, otherwise known as the amygdala, is where emotions are born and live. That's unfortunately, or fortunately, but perfectly normally, that's where humans make decisions. This is the part of the brain that, you know, your fight, flight, freeze, or appease tendencies come from when you're confronted with danger. So it's that relationship between the midbrain and the neocortex that we're trying to basically parse out, so you have a better grip on some of the things that you might do, and recognize the emotional decisions that may be driving some of your otherwise rational decisions.